Alexander Graham Bell was born on March 3, 1847, in Edinburgh, Scotland. His parents were Alexander Melville Bell and Eliza Grace. He had two brothers, and they both died of tuberculosis. Bell was the son and grandson of authorities in elocution and the correction of speech. He wanted to follow in their footsteps. He was a professor of vocal physiology at Boston University. A big step towards the idea of a telephone was the invention of the telegraph. The telegraph was invented in 1834. The telegraph and the telephone are both electronics that are wire-based. When Bell invented the telephone, he wanted to improve the telegraph. The telegraph was limited to sending and receiving one message at a time. Bell had extensive knowledge of sound and an understanding of music, which enabled to conjecture the possibility of transmitting multiple messages at one time. A telegraph with the Morse code that transmitted multiple messages at one time was already invented. Bell wanted to invent a telegraph with harmonic sound that could send multiple messages at one time. In October of 1874, he informed Gardner Hubbard the possibility of a multiple telegraph. Hubbard did not like the Western Union Telegraph Company and saw this as a great opportunity to break the Western Union Telegraph Company, so he gave Bell the financial backing he needed. Bell did not tell Hubbard that he and Thomas Watson, a young electrician, who were also exploring Bell's idea of a harmonic telegraph. By June 1875, the goal of creating a device that would transmit speech was about to be reached. They proved that different tones would vary the strength of electric current in a wire. Now they just needed to build a working transmitter capable of varying electronic currents and a receiver that would reproduce these variation in audible frequencies. On March 10, 1876, Bell discovered that he could hear the ticking of a clock on the harmonic telegraph. Also on this date, Bell spoke to Watson over the telephone. Bell said, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." After inventing the telephone, Bell drew up a patent application on his invention. He drew up a patent application on the morning of February 14, 1876. Bell was not the only one who invented a telephone. Elijah Gray invented a telephone with a water transmitter. Bell's patent for the telephone was issued on March 7, 1876. In July of 1877, Alexander Graham Bell founded the Bell Telephone Company with Gardner Hubbard. In 1878, the Bell Telephone Company had 10,000 telephones across America. The Bell Telephone Company eventually filed a lawsuit against the Western Union Company. The lawsuit was about Thomas Edison stealing the transmitter that Bell invented. Due to all of the business that the Bell Telephone Company had, they needed to open the American Bell Telephone Company. Back then, they did not have numbers on their telephones to dial, so they had to talk to an operator. A man named Almond Strauger did not like operators because he had to wait for them to answer his call and to transfer his call. And he then decided to update the telephone. In 1891, he created an automatic telephone which had numbers on it that you could dial. The invention of the telephone has had a great impact on today's culture and society. Almost everyone in America has at least one telephone. The telephone, besides the computer, is how many of us talk to one another. We all need a telephone, and it is a necessity to today's lifestyle. If we did not have the telephone, we still could possibly be writing letters and telegrams to one another. The telephone is needed to make emergency calls, and the telephone also makes our world more addicted to electronics and separates us from those around us. Since the 1900s, the world has made some modifications to the telephone, and we now have cell phones which are being updated frequently. Cell phones have touchscreens and many different modifications, and a cell phone is being used for texting more than calls. Almost every teenager has a cell phone and relies on it daily for whatever reason. The telephone has shaped our world into what it is today.